Oh,
and
yeah.
They make the reference to Wild Things.
Yes.
Everyone's like super excited to watch Wild Things.
And yeah, and they do the. Did you notice the?
Yeah, the kid. When she comes out of the bathroom, like the boy is waiting there for her, and he's kind of doing like that weird, like kind of stance. Where he's kind of like trying to look all hot and sexy and everything, and get her going. Yeah, it was fucking funny when I saw that.
They also do a really.
It's got the music.
Yeah, the score. But did you notice the Paul Thomas Anderson, the Boogie Night shot by the swimming pool?
Yes. Yeah. It was really a lot of fun. We're gonna get off topic here for a moment, but I liked it a lot. It was a lot sleazier than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, it gets pretty.
But I think that makes it a lot funnier.
Yeah, that they're kind of unapologetic about that.
Yeah, but yes, there were a lot of scenes I noticed that were homages to like other movies, and the Wild Things one was obvious. The Boogie Nights one was an obvious one. Even like some of the conversations they're having are like out of Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
Or like, would be, or definitely homages to the conversations that were had in that scene in Boogie Nights. We've talked about Ghostbusters 2 before because it came out summer of '89, which is when Batman came out, and we briefly spoke about the original Batman when we did Batman Returns.
Mm-hmm.
The Ghostbusters, when you watch it, even now, and we mentioned it, the cursing, the smoking, the sexual innuendo, even like some of the horror elements to it. It wasn't necessarily intended for kids. It's more of an adult movie. And yes, it's PG because there was no PG-13 at the time. It was a weird time where things were in between being, age appropriate or not. And a lot of that stuff in the film probably isn't appropriate for, like I said, a 4-year-old like me, but I didn't care. But it obviously, me as an example, connected with kids quite a lot. That's why they had, the spin-off cartoon, The Real Ghostbusters, which I watched. You've mentioned, like, the toys and everything. Like, I think I had all the action figures for The Real Ghostbusters, including the Ecto one, including, some of the ghosts, the Slimer.
Did you have the proton pack?
No.
Or
like an actual proton pack?
Yeah, and then they had the actual like ghost trappers, like basically like the props, but from the show. No, I didn't. I just had the action figures. Oh, okay.
I was big into action figures. So they had the Ghostbusters cartoon. Then there's talk of the sequel, because obviously Ghostbusters was such a runaway success. Any movie studio is always looking for a sequel. Because it was so popular with kids, a lot of those adult elements get toned down for the sequel. You notice nobody smokes anymore. If you've ever seen Miami Vice, the TV show,
mm-hmm.
Miami Vice started in 1984 as well. Everyone smokes in Miami Vice. And, the show got so popular and was popular with, younger people that they did the same thing with Miami Vice that they end up doing with Ghostbusters 2, and they toned down a lot of the more adult elements, toned down some of the violence, toned down the smoking. And then Miami Vice kind of sucked after that. Kind of feel the same way about Ghostbusters 2. Ghostbusters 2 has a very lackluster showing. It opened up huge, don't get me wrong. We've mentioned this before. It opens up in June of 1989, almost 5 years. To the day, I think it's about a week past, June 16th, yeah, so about a week past. It's the biggest opening day. It grosses $10 million on the opening day. Grosses $29.5 million in its opening weekend. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade was out a few weeks before that, which had, opened up pretty big. Ghostbusters 2 the next weekend gets beaten by Batman, which opens up huge. We've been through all this. But, bottom line, Ghostbusters 2 opens up huge, but it gets this less enthusiastic response from, audiences and critics. I remember really liking it when I was like 9 years old. But, I'm a 9-year-old. I didn't know very much at the time. Going back and rewatching it again a couple times since, I'm not big on it anymore. And it only earns about $112.5 million domestically. Worldwide, $215. So it's well short, well below what the first film has made. So I'm not big on it. I think there's some good stuff in it.
Vigo was cool.
I do like the very beginning.
Uh-huh.
Where it kind of shows where they all are. At this point in time, I love that Venkman's like the weirdo talk show host. I love, Ray and Winston doing like the birthday party and the kids just being over it. But I think overall, the movie is... It's not great. I probably should sit down and rewatch it again now, especially after having done the show and having rewatched Ghostbusters a few times over the last week, to see if I still have... I don't hate it. We've spoken about this many times before, about like RoboCop, about Die Hard, Predator. Like, you have this amazing first film, and then the sequel is just very meh. Even though it doesn't do well, there's always been this talk about a third film, about Ghostbusters 3. Bill Murray, I think, was the one that kind of didn't want any part of it. It's from what I understand, it kind of sounds like the original idea, maybe even a draft or two of the script for Ghostbusters 2 was much different than what ended up being Ghostbusters 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Bill Murray says, okay, I'll do a sequel to the movie. If it's this, then it becomes something else, and he's not happy about that. So he was always reluctant to kind of do a third film, and then for years they were trying to get a third movie going. It was always, it's going to be Ghostbusters 3. Then it was, it'll be a new Ghostbusters. It'll be like a new team. Something like that. But, Ghostbusters 3 never really materialized. For the best, my opinion. But it always seemed like Bill Murray was the holdout. It seemed like Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd, and even Ivan Reitman, were all down to do a third film. But you mentioned the video game.
Mm-hmm.
The video game kind of is looked at as being the third film, because there was, I don't know if they actually did any writing on it, but I guess they had creative input from both Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis on the video game.
Yeah, well, from the research I did, I guess they repurposed whatever screenplay those guys had for the third, or the treatment or whatever it may be, and they repurposed it for like the video game format. And I actually own the game, and I played it back in 2009 when it initially came out, and I was blown away by how authentic it really feels as a Ghostbusters fan, where you can you're getting introduced as a new recruit to the team, and then you kind of slowly, like, you can upgrade your proton pack, and you get all these new kind of things as you progress through the story. And the showdowns with the ghosts are actually they're pretty scary and unnerving sometimes. And just trying to trap ghosts and doing all this stuff in that universe it felt really special. And it was awesome that they were able to actually do something, especially because much like the vice versa, where, video game adaptations to film don't really work, to see that, to see like a video game based on a popular franchise done right for the first time, you know what I mean, was awesome, and that game is great.
You have to show it to me.
Yeah.
If you're able to play it still.
Yeah, I have it on the hard drive of my PS4 as we speak, so I can pull it up and show you some clips. Or if you really want to see like what the story's all about, I'm sure you can find like a recap on YouTube where you can watch all the cutscenes straight through. Mm-hmm. Too, but no, it's a great game, man.
Yeah, the next time you and I get together, hopefully sometime soon, you can show me.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
I talked about the sequel, but what are your thoughts on it?
I remember, like, it's been a few years since I've seen it, now, like in my perspective now, but I remember liking Vigo a lot. As a villain.
You know who's great in it? Vigo's a pretty good villain, but Peter McNichol, who's the artist at the gallery, that has the interactions with Vigo, he's very good in it. He's got a good comedic performance in it. I don't know. I think it's extremely lackluster.
It's just, you run that risk where sometimes the first one is just too good, where maybe it's best to leave it alone. You know what I mean?
And that's my opinion on it. The first movie, in my opinion, is as close to perfect as can be. It's so good. It works so well as a comedy, as this high concept comedy, and it's almost like lightning in a bottle. I mean, a lot of that stuff is ad libbed. Some of that stuff was happy accidents. The effects, all of that was they were lucky that movie turned out as good as it did, considering that they were really pressed for time. Things kept changing. They couldn't do a whole lot of takes. So I would take that as a sign that, leave it as it be. Some movies, not every single movie needs to have a franchise behind it. I think that's the problem with a lot of things these days. Mm-hmm. Is they're always eyeballing like the sequel and the franchise, the world that we can build around this movie, instead of just having, a single standalone movie.
Because, sometimes when you try to expand on it, if it doesn't work, it kind of cheapens what was your original property. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So this third film never materializes. They do the video game. Harold Ramis, unfortunately, I don't think we've mentioned, is now dead.
He passed away in 2014, I believe, right?
Yeah, 2014. Yeah, it was like just around the 30th anniversary. Which, to bring it back, the 30th anniversary is they re-released the movie in theaters. That's where you and I went to go watch it. We watched it twice. Do you remember that?
I do.
We watched it one night, and then because I'm such a huge fan, I don't think when we went to go see that, I don't think Susie had ever seen that movie.
That's funny. Yeah, she was just telling me about that earlier. That she had never watched it all the way through because as a kid she thought it was a horror film, and so she didn't want to be scared. So that's pretty amazing for her to have been able